It is Monday, April 6th, and we are back at it with our dividing fractions. We are on this page with the birds at the top. It says divide a fraction by a fraction, and this is page 279. So you should have torn this out and have it beside you right now so that you can follow along as we look through this together. Okay, last week we started talking about the idea of dividing fractions, and we were dividing fractions by whole numbers. And so I told you to take the fraction and flip it upside down and then multiply, and that's it. So that's all we're going to do today too. So, but it's a little bit easier because we have two fractions, and we're just going to be looking at the right side, flipping it, and multiplying. Okay, and I'm going to teach you one more thing that's going to help you, especially on a lot of these, get through very quickly. Okay, now, does it make sense to multiply by 2 and then divide by 2? Does that make sense? What does it do if I multiply a number and then I divide it by that same number? So let's say I had 3 times 2, which would be 6, and then I divide it by 2, which gives me back to 3, right? So I cancel what I do out. I make it no good if I multiply and then divide, right? So in that case, when we get to numbers where we see the same number diagonally across, we can cancel those out. And I'm going to show you, this is really exciting. I like this. Okay, so here we go. So our phrase that we're going to get used to saying is flip the right and multiply. Say it with me. Flip the right and multiply. Again, flip the right and multiply. So when I say flip, I just mean bottom number becomes top, top becomes bottom. So you just push it over and it just whoop, flips. Okay? So here we go. Let's write out number 1. Number 1 is 2 2/3 divided by get this going right. 2/3 divided by 1/3. Okay, now I'm going to go underneath and let's change it. I'm going to flip the right and multiply. So I rewrite the same number exactly the way it is. I change my division to a multiplication and I flip that right number. So instead of saying 1/3, I'm going to say 3/1. Okay, now what that does, and it's hard to see, let me see if I can just write it with my pen, because it's hard to see when I write it this way. If I've got 2/3 times 3/1. Now look, I've got 3's diagonally across from each other. So I'm doing exactly what I said a minute ago. I'm multiplying and dividing by the same number. And guess what? 3/3 in fraction terms is a 1, right? So if I take a 1 out, I'm not changing the number at all. So if I simply just slice through this number, I cancel that out. I don't have to multiply or divide by that anymore. They cancel each other out because they're the same. Now they have to be diagonal. They cannot be side by side. They have to be diagonal. But when they're diagonal, I can slice them out. Then, what's my answer? 2/1, which is the same as what? 2/1 equals 2. Okay, so when I flipped, I canceled that 3 out, and my answer was just 2. That's easy. Okay, let's try another one. That may seem a little confusing at the beginning. Okay, let's try another one. Let me change my color. Okay, number 2. 4/6 divided by 2/6. So what am I going to do? I'm going to keep 4/6 and then I'm going to change it to a multiplication, and then I'm going to flip the right number, which is going to be 6 over 2. And look at there, we did it again. We've got a 6 and a 6 diagonally, which means, let's go to a highlighter. I can cancel that out. And I don't have to do that. I cancel it out. Now I just bring over what I have left. Oh, I want my pen back. How do I get my pen back? Okay, I'm going to bring over 4 over 2, and let's fix that. 4 over 2 is the same as 2. 4 divided by 2. Are you getting it? Let's try another one. Okay, number 3. 3/4 divided by 1/8. So we're going to keep 3/4. I'm going to just change my division sign to a multiplication, and then I'm going to flip 8 over 1. So now I'm going to multiply straight across. These are not the same, so I'm not going to cancel out. I'm going to multiply straight across. 3 times 8 is 24 over 4, which is the same as 24 over 4 is 6. 4 goes into 24 6 times. Okay, let's look at number 4. 6/8. I'm going to change that division sign to a multiplication sign, and then I'm going to flip and make it 8 over 3. And guess what? I've got an 8 and an 8 diagonally. I can cancel it out. Now I can just bring over what I have. 6 over 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. We've got a lot of 2's being the answer, don't we? Okay, number 5. 1/2. I'm changing that division to a multiplication, and I'm flipping that number, and instead of 1/4, I'm going to make it a 4 over a 1. Now I'm going to multiply straight across. Yes, the 1 and the 1 can cancel, but they really don't do anything in the first place, so it doesn't really mean anything, does it? So we're going to write 4 over 2, which is the same as, guess what our answer is again? 2. All right, I hope you're getting the hang of this. I think it's pretty easy. 8 over 12 is number 6, and I'm going to change that division to a multiplication, and I'm going to flip that fraction, which guess what? Gives me another number to cancel out. So I can cancel out my 12s. I can bring over my 8 over 2, which will make my answer what? 8 divided by 2 is 4. Yay! How are you doing? You getting it? Okay, you've got 6 more there. So remember our phrase, flip the right and multiply. If you have numbers diagonally that are the same, cancel them out. Bring those other 2 over. That's all that you have to do. You have 6 more on the back. It tries to tell you a different way to do it. I would stick with our pattern. We're using the reciprocal way today. That's all we're doing. We don't have to do any other different ways that they tell you about. So if this makes sense to you, keep going with this, please, okay? So don't worry. Do not worry about this number line part. But I do want you to do these, but do them the same way we did them before, okay? All right, and then you have, let's look at the word problems together to make sure you understand what they're asking. Number 19 says, after her party, Katie had 3/4 of a pie left over that she wants to share with friends. If 1/8 of a pie is a serving, how many of her friends could she serve? So she wants to split up. She's got 3/4 left over. And she wants to split it up into pieces of 1/8. So we want to divide 3/8 or 3/4 divided by 1/8. So that will mean that we change this to 3/4 times 8/1, right? Which if I multiply the top numbers, 3 times 8 is 24. The denominator would be 4. So she would have how many pieces? 6. Or she would be able to serve how many friends? 6 friends. Okay, that's number 19. 20. After the party, Katie put the leftover mints in bags. She filled 5 bags with half cup of mints in each bag. How many cups of mints were left over from the party? So this is different. She's not splitting anything up here. She has 5 bags, and each one she put a half a cup in. So that's 5 times 1/2. So 5 times 1 is 5. We bring over the denominator, which is 2. We want to solve that. 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 remainder. So 2.5 cups is how much she has left over. 2.5 cups. Okay, last one. 21. Katie had 1 quart of punch left over from the party. If 1 cup of punch is a serving, how many servings of punch remain? So we have to figure out how many cups are in a quart. Do you remember that? How many cups are in a quart? There are 2 cups in a pint, and there are 2 pints in a quart. So there would be 4 cups. There would be 4 cups in 1 quart. So that's how much servings she has left. Okay, now for your comments below, I want you to make up a word problem using a fraction. You can multiply, you can have it adding, you can have it dividing. Remember, if I could do a fraction word problem by just saying I have a pizza and I want to, or I have half a pizza and I want to split it with 4 people. How much will each of us get? Okay, so just give me a word problem using a fraction in the comments below. Go.